Chapter 63 of The Golden Bough. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Joe Dickerson. The Golden Bough by Sir James Frazer, Chapter 63. The Interpretation of the Fire Festivals. Section 1. On the Fire Festivals in General. The foregoing survey of the popular fire festivals of Europe suggests some general observations. In the first place, we can hardly help being struck by the resemblance which the ceremonies bear to each other, at whatever time of the year and whatever part of Europe they are celebrated. The custom of kindling great bonfires, leaping over them, and driving cattle through or round them would seem to have been practically universal throughout Europe, and the same may be said of the processions or races with blazing torches round fields, orchards, pastures, and cattle stalls. Less widespread are the customs of hurling lighted discs into the air and trundling a burning wheel downhill. The ceremonial of the Yule log is distinguished from that of the other fire festivals by the privacy and domesticity which characterize it. But this distinction may well be due simply to the rough weather of midwinter, which is apt not only to render a public assembly in the open air disagreeable, but also at any moment to defeat the object of the assembly by extinguishing the all-important fire under a downpour of rain or a fall of snow. Apart from these local or seasonal differences, the general resemblance between the fire festivals at all times of the year and in all places is tolerably close. And as the ceremonies themselves resemble each other, so do the benefits which the people expect to reap from them. Whether applied in the form of bonfires blazing at fixed points, or of torches carried about from place to place, or of embers and ashes taken from the smouldering heap of fuel, the fire is believed to promote the growth of the crops and the welfare of man and beast, either positively by stimulating them, or negatively by averting the dangers and calamities which threaten them from such causes as thunder and lightning, conflagration, blight, mildew, vermin, sterility, disease, and not least of all, witchcraft. But we may naturally ask, how did it come about that benefits so great and manifold were supposed to be attained by means so simple? In what way did people imagine that they could procure so many goods, or avoid so many ills by the application of fire and smoke, of embers and ashes? Two different explanations of the fire festivals have been given by modern inquirers. On the one hand, it has been held that they are sun charms, or magical ceremonies, intended, on the principle of imitative magic, to ensure a needful supply of sunshine for men, animals, and plants by kindling fires which mimic on earth the great source of light and heat in the sky. This was the view of Wilhelm Mannhardt. It may be called the solar theory. On the other hand, it has been maintained that the ceremonial fires have no necessary reference to the sun, but are simply purificatory in intention, being designed to burn up and destroy all harmful influences, whether these are conceived in a personal form as witches, demons, and monsters, or in an impersonal form, as a sort of pervading taint or corruption of the air. This is the view of Dr. Edward Westermarck, and apparently of Professor Eugene Mauch. It may be called the purificatory theory. Obviously, the two theories postulate two very different conceptions of the fire which plays the principal part in the rites. On the one view, the fire, like sunshine in our latitude, is a genial creative power which fosters the growth of plants and the development of all that makes for health and happiness. On the other view, the fire is a fierce, destructive power which blasts and consumes all the noxious elements, whether spiritual or material, that menace the life of men, of animals, and of plants. According to the one theory, the fire is a stimulant; according to the other, it is a disinfectant. On the one view, its virtue is positive; on the other, it is negative. Yet the two explanations, different as they are in the character which they attribute to the fire, are perhaps not wholly irreconcilable. If we assume that the fires kindled at these festivals were primarily intended to imitate the sun's light and heat, may we not regard the purificatory and disinfecting qualities, which popular opinion certainly appears to have ascribed to them, as attributes derived directly from the purificatory and disinfecting qualities of sunshine? In this way we might conclude that, while the imitation of sunshine in these ceremonies was primary and original, the purification attributed to them was secondary and derivative. Such a conclusion, occupying an intermediate position between the two opposing theories, and recognizing an element of truth in both of them, was adopted by me in earlier editions of this work. But in the meantime, Dr. Westermarck has argued powerfully in favor of the purificatory theory alone, and I am bound to say that his arguments carry great weight, and that on a fuller review of the facts, the balance of evidence seems to me to incline decidedly in his favor. However, the case is not so clear as to justify us in dismissing the solar theory without discussion, and accordingly I propose to adduce the considerations which tell for it, before proceeding to notice those which tell against it. A theory which had the support of so learned and sagacious an investigator as W. Monhart is entitled to a respectful hearing. Section 2. The Solar Theory of the Fire Festivals. In an earlier part of this work, we saw that savages resort to charms for making sunshine, and it would be no wonder if primitive man in Europe did the same. Indeed, when we consider the cold and cloudy climate of Europe during a great part of the year, we shall find it natural that sun charms should have played a much more prominent part among the superstitious practices of European peoples than among the savages who live nearer the equator, and who consequently are apt to get in the course of nature more sunshine than they want. This view of the festivals may be supported by various arguments, drawn partly from their dates, partly from the nature of the rites, and partly from the influence which they are believed to exert upon the weather and on vegetation. First, in regard to the dates of the festivals, it can be no mere accident that two of the most important and widely spread of the festivals are timed to coincide more or less exactly with the summer and winter solstices, that is, with the two turning points in the sun's apparent course in the sky, when he reaches respectively his highest and his lowest elevation at noon. Indeed, with respect to the midwinter celebration of Christmas, we are not left to conjecture. We know from the express testimony of the ancients that it was instituted by the Church to supersede an old heathen festival of the birth of the sun, which was apparently conceived to be born again on the shortest day of the year, after which his light and heat were seen to grow till they attained their full maturity at midsummer. Therefore it is no very far-fetched conjecture to suppose that the Yule log, which figures so prominently in the popular celebration of Christmas, was originally designed to help the labouring sun of midwinter to rekindle his seemingly expiring light. Not only the date of some of the festivals, but the manner of their celebration suggests a conscious imitation of the sun. The custom of rolling a burning wheel down a hill, which is often observed at these ceremonies, might well pass for an imitation of the sun's course in the sky, and the imitation would be especially appropriate on Midsummer Day, when the sun's annual declination begins. Indeed, the custom has been thus interpreted by some of those who have recorded it. Not less graphic, it may be said, is the mimicry of his apparent revolution by swinging a burning tar barrel round a pole. Again, the common practice of throwing fiery discs, sometimes expressly said to be shaped like suns, into the air at the festivals may well be a piece of imitative magic. In these, as in so